Welcome back. Thank you guys for joining us on our episode 4 of Startups in Your Health. And I am blessed and super grateful to say that I have not only a friend, but a colleague of mine by the name of Craig Sturgill. And I'm going to let him introduce himself to you guys so you can learn a little bit about him. But just to give a quick background, Craig's been working in business since he's been 16 years old, and he's incredibly successful. I'm super excited to share with you guys through the rest of the episode because his insights will be invaluable as you're starting up your business and, of course, taking care of yourself. He's not only someone who takes care of himself and his health, but also someone who's done an incredible job managing team members and leading large groups of people to one very successful goal, which he will explain to you in a second. So, Craig, go ahead and take it away. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jordan. And I mentioned I've got a little, just getting over a cold, so I'm a little raspy, but hopefully I sound all right on the podcast here. So yeah, you asked a question, a little bit about myself. I'm 34. I've been an entrepreneur since I've been, 16. Started, my car detailing business from my parents' garage at 16, which really opened the doors and gave me the vision to being an entrepreneur. I'm, why did I decide to be an entrepreneur? Somebody might ask. For me, it wasn't really that exciting of a story. I was fortunate. Most of the male members in my family growing up, my father, my uncles, grandfather, etc., were entrepreneurs. So for me, it honestly seemed natural. I never really thought about any other path. I've had family members in, owning car dealerships, the car business, to insurance agencies, electrical. My father's in real estate as a developer. So I've been in a family of entrepreneurs, I guess, and so for me that part was kind of I already decided I wanted to go that route, but I needed to decide what I wanted to do. So as I was going through school, I was always very ambitious and motivated, and always very creative, trying to solve problems. Ever since I was a kid, doing science experiments and inventing the improved mousetrap around the house. But my first real business was starting an insurance agency at 18, selling Medicare supplement insurance, and exited that business. I started a digital customer acquisition company exclusively focused on insurance. Became one of the fastest growing companies in the country, placed on Inc. 500 this year, actually 6 times. At one point, we were the 19th fastest growing company in the U.S. on the Inc. 500. And have also done a few other ventures, investment into other companies, as well as one of the passions of mine, investing into multifamily real estate. So during that time, I've had quite a diverse amount of experience. I don't look at anything as a failure. I've certainly had learning lessons, but as long as you're learning and you're moving forward, I don't think anything you can possibly fail at. So I've spent a lot of time and energy and hours, blood, sweat, and tear, money to learn a lot of the lessons that I've built up until this point. And you talk about health and things, and I've learned lessons in multiple respects, and in any way that I can help share and give back some of the stuff that I've learned the hard way and help somebody to shortcut some of that. Would love to be able to do that.
Yeah. No, and that's what we're all about. This whole podcast and everything that we talk about is just almost like a semi mentorship type of guidance, type of lesson learned, try and not make the same mistakes that we've done in the past. Thing. I really want to kind of, pull you back right into, that 18, 19-year-old self of yours. And there had to have been, I'm sure, monumental shifts in the way that your business functioned as you continue to develop, change, and pivot over time. Are there a couple of things that you can pinpoint to say that really made or break or a difference and made a real change and shift in the trajectory that your business was heading before your first exit?
Yeah, definitely. I was actually just talking about this with somebody else earlier today. Probably the number one thing, just from a business perspective, in my opinion, is focus. When I was 18 or 19, I had so many ideas, ideas out the wazoo. And I thought the ideas are what would make somebody successful. But I learned after a few years, I was actually watching Shark Tank, and I remember Robert Herjavec asked one of the show contestants a question. He said, "What's more important, the idea or the execution?" I was, I don't know, 19 years old at the time, but I was in my mind, I was sold that it was the idea is what would make you successful and, a fruitful business. But he said it was the execution. And I remember it was like a light bulb moment for me at, 19, just a year and a half or so into starting my first company, that it was really about the execution. And at that time, I was selling insurance, but I was, I started a website called like Learn Insurance Sales, and I was going to, try to coach other agents. And I had too much stuff going on at one time, and I wasn't growing the main thing well enough. And it's still my belief to this day. So every business that I've built really since then, including that business, decided to be laser focused on a specific niche, and just really dive deep, become the expert in that space. If you try to do too many things and be a jack of all trades, you're going to be a master of none. There's also this synergy and this energy that people feed off of, and they realize like each person, right, is valuable. And if you say you can do a million things, what is somebody going to turn to you for? But when you say you're the expert at something specific and people can remember that, it sticks in their head, they're going to know who to turn to. And so over time, you build this reputation of expertise within that niche. And I think that, creates a synergy and momentum. And then in addition to being able to focus on a specific niche, there may be opportunities that you can expand on that you never knew existed because you keep getting deeper and deeper and deeper, and you start finding all these incremental ways to optimize something, but you would have never had those opportunities
So,
if
Jordan,
unless you focused on
so
it
Jordan, I have
as a,
something
as a
similar I want to
primary
mention. I spoke to
venture.
the Inventor
So that would
Society
be my main.
about 3 years ago, and they've asked me to come back this December. And I have this slide, Craig, that I showed to them. I run a pitch event. We'll get into that briefly here, like a Shark Tank event. That's what I run, and Jordan has been to my event. And I put up a slide for the Inventor Society, and I say like 10 reasons investors invest. And number one is, have they been successful before? And like number two is, how close are they in proximity to the investor? Like, how do they live around the block? Number three is, there's all these reasons, and number 10 is the idea. And I get the inventors always upset with me. So
Unlike me, as an inventor myself, I know that the only way for me to continue moving forward is laser focused
yeah, so Craig,
execution.
it's the
And
same
a
exact thing.
smart
I'm saying that
really
for the
the way
inventors, they're
forward.
all focused on these ideas. It was never the idea. It's always everything but the ideas.
Yeah, so I think like ideas are very critical. I just, kind of learned how to channel those ideas to whatever it was that my business was focusing on because there's a lot of problems to solve, right? And that's another thing is this is another advice that kind of relates to this, but there's a million problems to solve in the world. And I think Elon Musk mentioned a quote at some point, you get paid in direct proportion to the difficulty of problems that you solve. So there's a lot of problems that are going to happen at multiple levels within your business and in different businesses. We need to understand what's the most important problem that it should be solving and making sure you're putting your focus on that. But again, channeling your focus and channeling your energy, you need to make sure that these ideas that you're, coming to your mind and you're fruitful with these ideas, that they're related to solving the specific problem and within the scope of what you're trying to do. And if you're starting to think about problems and solutions, the things that are kind of unrelated or outside of your niche, that's not going to bring this value. I use this like analogy that if you get a laser beam, that can burn something, and you're just waving it around constantly, you're never going to burn a hole. But it's only by the focus, keeping it pointed in one spot long enough that you're going to burn a hole through something. So I always think about that. It's like you need to focus on something to have enough, momentum and direction to actually make something happen. Because if you're just waving around constantly, you're just never going to burn a hole, aka never, be successful in that industry.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I don't think I could have even said it anymore. And just diving in on your specific problem and getting to know the customer avatar as closely as you possibly can to solve their real problems as a business and any business, I strongly believe, along with Elon and Steve Jobs and these creators of these massive companies, they are customer centric companies. And all of the incremental changes, the small percentages, the little bit boost of productivities and workflows make just a huge difference in the long run when you consider the span of a 5 year term, or even a 10 year term within business. It's super important. Dan, when you think of execution, you oversee and have seen so many companies. within their pitch decks and within their ideas and what they bring to the table and all of that. When we think of execution, what are some of the biggest things that individuals miss about
I
the
think it's exactly
actual
what Craig was saying. I just
executional
met with an
process
entrepreneur
within their
yesterday,
business?
and we've identified in his business what is the best business model, but he just can't give up the other models. So he's like dragging all these models with him. He needs to get laser focused, and I'm not in a lot of times, Craig. I'm meeting with startups. They're either my business or other people's businesses, and I can't tell them. I don't tell people what to do. I just say, hey, this is a better model than the one you're looking at. So, I have a broad background, and I do spreadsheets. I have an MBA. I code, so I have a lot of background. I'm just a general guy, and I'm totally ADHD, so I'm not good for. That's not my specialty. But what I'm specifically talking about, Jordan, is one of the startups I was working with yesterday. Like I said, like this model has like a 80% profit margin, and this one has a 10%. Can you switch? And you just can't switch. Like for some reason, they lock in, Craig, to their idea, and that's their idea, and they're not giving it up. And he's given up some things, but he needs to give up 95% of what he's trying.
Sure.
No. I was just putting out
Yeah, I
Harry. He
mean,
was asking me in general, but
I don't
I
know, was
actually
there
am
a
in
specific
a
question there, or
situation
just
with
kind of?
somebody.
No,
I
that
convince
was
them. I'm not going to convince him. He has to figure it out
right.
himself. But
Right.
I have two P&Ls. One makes money, one doesn't. Yeah.
Sure. Yep,
Right.
exactly.
Right.
You gotta love, and I think that's one thing about an entrepreneur is this entrepreneurial spirit and being able to see things that nobody else sees. And so it's difficult, right, when somebody believes in something, but at the same time they got to be real with themselves. Hey, give yourself a certain amount of time, certain KPIs and metrics to make it happen, but you can't tell yourself this fairy tale and believe in something forever if it's not producing results. You get and another thing I'm very passionate about is staying lean. So, that's a whole separate conversation. But when you get these companies that get funding and they're just trying all these fancy ideas all day long, but it's not really profitable, what happens when the funding runs out? But, every business I've started has been very lean, little to no capital funding. It's bootstrapping, it's doing the hard way, and it forces you to find solutions, else you just won't exist. I started my first business with $500, no loans. In fact, I tried to get a loan for $10,000 and I couldn't at the time because I had no business history. Um, so it's one thing, I guess, if you're spinning your wheels, you know, but you're not working on somebody else's dime. But especially when you start taking money from other people, right? Like you better have
Craig,
a
I
solid
have to
plan to
mention something
produce
very interesting
returns
because,
and
we all
create
come
that
from different
multiple.
paths.
But
Like, Jordan
yeah,
and I both have master's degrees. So and I've worked in corporate America for at least 15 years. So we learn bad habits. You know what I'm saying, Craig? It's habits that's hard for us to throw away. I keep going back between enterprise level world and entrepreneur world. In your world, it's very easy to hear you say you focus. In corporate world, they don't want people to focus. So like those corporate people come out of an environment. I used to have like 50. I used to work on 30 projects at a time at my job, and they were happy. I did that. So that that's a different mentality. Also, we're overeducated. Jordan has masters up the yin yang here, and I have one too. Okay. So we're overeducated. We can't be simple. I've been mentoring Jordan for a while, and his startup is doing well. But he and I are like too sophisticated, overcomplicating, coming up with every constructive way to like do things in the most complicated way. It's very hard for us to think very focused, like you're saying. We think in a sophisticated.
yeah, it's a simple thing like a simple exercise. Try to engage in a real conversation with somebody and put
Yeah.
a piece of paper in front of you and do a math problem at the same time. Like both of them are going to suck.
I've tried.
So, but that's what you're doing to yourself when you're trying to focus on 10 different things.
Well,
I was
he
going to
also
say
had something coming along with
there
a
was no
very
way I'd be
complicated
successful in
solution
it.
that only he could really develop. So that's terrific. But like, Craig, I was trying with Jordan when I first met him. He showed me a product, and I blurted out, "Why don't you just call it this?" And he didn't like it because it was so simplistic. It was so simplistic. He was like, "No, no way." So, I'm not going to say it. family for a COVID test last Friday, and everyone was tested positive. All four. Oh, good, good.
Oh well, I did at home test and it was negative. But but anyway, so I got my own thoughts on that. But I won't say I'm on the podcast here. But I had a cold for like 2 weeks, and I'm like, man, this thing's driving me nuts. And they, doctor said everybody's coming in with this virus. They're not sure what it is, but my at-home COVID test said negative. But it's been 2 weeks now almost. I'm just recovering now, but just sinuses. It's just, normally I don't really get sick, knock on wood, rarely at all. And if I do, usually it's for a couple days. So I don't know what this
So
virus is.
this brings up something that I quite interesting. And Craig, because you are a special guest, I'm going to let you answer this one first, and then we'll move on to Dan. How do you manage all of your roles right now, being sick and not feeling well, or having to be at home, or not being completely in the office? I mean, what does that look like as someone as successful as you are, with so many people relying on them? When you go down, how do you handle that? How do you take that?
So in general, my mindset is, I may be under the weather, or I may, be sick, but I don't participate in that. Now, with that being said, obviously it depends on the severity of what's actually happening. Most of the time, honestly, just working. I mean, fortunately and unfortunately at the same time, most of my work is on my computer screen. And for me, when I'm just engaged deeply in work, like I almost forget about, being sick or anything else. So for me, work like I work almost no matter how I feel. And I think that's just part of discipline. Like you got to do stuff whether you feel like it or not. And I'm not perfect, right? I have my own days. There's a day where I skipped the gym that I didn't feel like it, that I knew I should have, and I kicked my own ass for not doing it, not being as disciplined as I should. But most of the time, I'm going to show up and I'm going to do the work regardless of how I feel. But there are some times, I did have COVID, a couple years ago, and it did kick my ass. And there was a couple days where I just laid around like a lazy ass on the couch because that's all I felt like I could do. Right? I'm not like a robot, but I also didn't lay around for 3 weeks, feeling sorry for myself and moping. I took a day or two or three off, whatever it was. I don't remember. So I'm a big fan. Like you got to do the work. A lot of people, especially some of the younger generations, not to pick on them. I'm a millennial myself, technically, but a lot of people are so into just doing what feels good, or is the perfect scenario. But sometimes you got to work through the hard stuff in order to get to the point that you want to get to. And so many people, they just lack the discipline. They can only do things for 6 months or a year or two at a time, and then they're just capped out because it's not checking every box, and they're not just on cloud nine every day. Um, you know, I don't know. Like I enjoy what I do, right? But there's going to be days that suck. But I can tell you, definitely, there's a lot more sucky days when I first started than there is now. But I've been consistent for 15 years being an entrepreneur, and I'm able to clearly see the fruits of my labor. But there's a reason why they say the first 2 years of a company are the most challenging, and most companies quit within the first 2 years. And it's just because you're building everything, like you're grinding every single day. You don't have anything coming to you. You're building everything. The benefit, once it's not exactly 2 years, right? But when you hit the 2 year mark and you continue to grow, now you start to have momentum. Now you've got referrals. Now you're known, and so it makes it easier to grow within a space where you've got a reputation, assuming you're building a strong reputation. But people just need to have discipline and stay consistent. I i, I genuinely believe, actually, Calvin Coolidge has a quote about persistence. I'll read it to you right now. Give me 1 second.
One of my business partners loved Calvin Coolidge.
um, so it says this. Yeah, this is my favorite quote. It's on my LinkedIn and everywhere. Nothing in the world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful men with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. And then where's the persistence and determination alone are omnipotent. the slogan "Press on" has solved and always will solve the problems of the human race. So I'm a big fan. Like, you don't have to be, and I don't even claim to be myself. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room, the most intelligent, the best looking. None of that stuff. I mean, maybe it helps, but it's not the thing that's going to make you successful. The thing is being persistent and being determined and being disciplined and just never quitting, because you can't beat somebody who will never quit. And so sooner or later, if you keep pressing forward, you're going to be successful. Unfortunately, too many people think the magic or think the secret sauce is something other than just literally being persistent. It's that simple. If you just don't stop, you're going to be successful. And so, maybe it's a long answer about being sick, but it doesn't matter what you feel like. Just do the work.
No, I love it. I love it. He got kicked out when he was telling us about his amazing entrepreneurship. Oh, all right. Well, while we wait for him to join back in, I love that about you, Craig. I think that's something that it's commendable, it's respectable. I knew that immediately when I first met you, when we met at the event. Someone that not only I could respect but look up to, and you know, congratulations on everything that you've done so far. And because our podcast is a little bit about startups and our health, I want to kind of shift gears. We dove a little bit further back in our initial discussions, about this grind phase and this continuation. And you mentioned a little bit about your fruits of your labor now. Are there some things that you can share with us that are exciting times that are going on right now?
Uh, yeah, I think as an entrepreneur, you've always got to be looking forward. That's what's exciting, and that's what is alluring to me as an entrepreneur, and just in general in life, is always looking forward to something. Because to me, progress is happiness. If you're making progress in life, that's what creates happiness. And one of the things is, like, to me, everybody has like this inherent conscious, subconscious, belief of how valuable they think they are, how much they can push themselves, what they can achieve in life, right? And everybody, that's different. Just because somebody doesn't want as much or somebody wants more doesn't make it right and wrong. So I don't judge anybody based on that. But whatever you want to achieve, and you look at the best version of yourself, if you're not creating output, you're not working hard enough, you're not doing the things to get you to that level that you believe you're able to achieve, that's where it's going to create discontentment. And I've been there myself, right? Like, I've slowed down in life. I've maybe, hey, let me take it easy. And I built a business, and I can do this. But I learned quickly, this is, if I'm not, it doesn't mean I grind 24/7, but if I'm not, producing enough output in line with where I think I'm capable of being, then I'm just not as happy. And so, we're constantly in business and personal life, family, health, you name it, setting goals. How can I be better? And being conscious with those. Actually written down goals every year, planning, whether it's business, personal, setting a goal of where you want to be that, and then holding yourself accountable. Check in with yourself and say, hey, am I on track for hitting these goals? And if you're not, make changes, adapt your schedule, your routine, in order to get there. So, uh, that's kind of a long answer, but to your question, I mean, yes, there's always things that I'm looking forward. New business heights, they'd be a little bit in the weeds if I went through like specifics, but in every area of my life, and including business, right, I'm setting goals that we want to achieve. Uh, Sometimes you hit those as you plan, sometimes you exceed them, sometimes you don't reach them, right? But you learn from those, and you set new heights every month, every quarter, every year. You constantly strive to become better than you were the day before. And to me, that's what's exciting, is constant progress.
I, Craig is being incredibly humble right here on this podcast right about now, because his current monthly goals are probably what you think of as your lifetime goals for your company. And that's a testament to Craig's true nature as a very, very strong leader, and being very good at what he does. And to his point of not only breaking it down, but having that long term goal, your long term goal should sound audacious. It should be it just unimaginable to 99 out of 100 people that you tell to. They should be saying there's no way you could do it, because that should be your final goal. and you backtrack down from there to actually make it attainable in the steps then that are required in order to maintain not only your weekly, your monthly, quarterly, and then yearly goal outcomes to progress and follow from there. Dan, welcome back. Please go ahead.
I'm back.
Yeah, and I want to mention one comment really quick on the goals, if I could.
Please.
So I think there's a very important distinction. Again, this is one of the lessons that I learned myself, or how I think about it at least. And there's a difference between a vision and a goal. And I used to be, and I still am to some degree, but I used to be almost too rigid in life with my goals, which is a good thing and a bad thing at sometimes. I was so rigid that, there was no way I wasn't going to hit this goal, but I was holding myself too accountable, like almost too accountable, too rigid, and leaving no room to spare. That I was also potentially putting more pressure than necessary on myself, and maybe not allowing more growth than expected because I was so focused on a specific goal. But again, the difference I think between goals and a vision, I agree with what you said, but the goals are more measurable, more specific things. The vision is where this 10x, this 100x kind of exponential growth can come from. So vision, I think, should, when you're designing a vision and goals for yourself, and you start with a vision for yourself, your company, all that, your vision should be almost unattainable. It's so great, it's so big, it's so grand that you can never achieve it. And that's what like ultimately pulls you towards something. And then the goals are how you're going to measure your checkpoints and your progress along that. And I'm not the best with feelings. Actually, I have to give credit to my business partner in my one company for, he actually told me, he said, Craig, you're more, how did he say it? You're more religious than I am, but I believe I have more faith than you do. And what he explained by that, right, is like I was planning things, goals written down, discipline, checking in, but sometimes you just have to believe something, even if you don't know the path, even if it's not written on paper. That's what the whole point of faith is. And I actually took the pressure off and improved my vision and goal setting and possibilities by thinking that way, uh, because it kind of expands your mind. And so this vision, you may not know how you're going to get there, right? You might say, I want to make 1 million, I want to make 1 billion, I want to accomplish, maybe it's not even monetary, I want to accomplish this thing in my health, I want to live until I'm 120. Whatever your vision is, right? It's so big that you may not know exactly how you're going to get there, but it's pulling you towards something. Then your goals, that's where you want to be specific. Hey, this next 5 years or this 1 year, you don't want to make a 50-year goal. Like, that's a vision. A 1 year, a 2 year, a 3 year, those are goals, and you can hold yourself accountable to those. You can check into those, right? But don't make, that should be a smart goal. Goals should be smart, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. That's how you define a goal. A vision isn't crafted the same way.
Hey, Jordan, I have a question for Craig. And, I've been involved in a dozen little businesses, some that we grew very rapidly, some which petered along. And do you notice, what I've noticed, and I want to ask you the same thing. Do you notice a certain pattern or tempo that you're looking for, and either that pattern is like fast growth, like it's either happening or not? You know what I'm saying? And you either notice this pattern or you're saying this is not the pattern and I have to change. Is that something you've experienced as well?
Yeah, I think there's different businesses, different investments, different purposes, and I think it's also good to differentiate between an investment and a business. So for me, like I said, I love real estate. It's a passion of mine, but I use it right now as an investment, and so I think it's an actual goal per se, because that's not the purpose of me investing in real estate. That's more for diversification, wealth building, tax benefits, stability over time. Uh, and so the way that I manage it as an investment is very different than I may manage it as a business. If that was my full focus, and I don't spend a significant amount of time. I've got, set up property management companies. It's kind of somewhat automated. Nothing's fully passive, but it's not my main focus. If it was my main focus, I would operate it in a very different way where I would want much more exponential growth. And so for me, in any business, like if you're going to be spending your time 40, 50 hours a week, more or less, whatever it is that you spend, why would you not have the fastest growth you could possibly have during the same amount of hours? And so it requires in my mind, just the same amount of energy and work to run a small mom and pop business as it does to run a fast growth business. It's just the way that you got to think about it, the way that you got to execute, the people that you have to have. And one thing I've also learned over time, of building a team, right? Like if you have employees, you got team, you're gonna have people that you're managing and that you're working alongside with either way, and you need to spend time to recruit these people, to train these people. But why not have people that are aligned with your mission and your vision, that are hungry, that are ready to grow exponentially? Everybody's much more excited, and it's much, in my mind, much easier to attract talent to a business that has this exponential growth. I would say that's one of the most, probably the biggest thing, at least in our company, uh, that people, when I ask them, why did you join the company? There's a lot of reasons, but it seems like the most resounding answer is because of this growth opportunity. And again, it's just in my mind, a basic human element. Progress equals happiness, and people want to go where there's opportunity. If people don't see opportunity, it's going to be this lifestyle brand. You're going to get demotivated people. It's just not going to create this growth. And so, um, I wouldn't focus my time on any business that I'm actually devoting a significant amount of time to that doesn't have exponential growth opportunity. It just, there's no reason. There's too many opportunities to be spending my time in something that doesn't have exponential growth.
Craig, I do want to say here, I want to be respectful of your time, and I know you have to go. And so I want to go ahead and ask you. I mean, do we have a couple more? Do we have a little bit more time to go ahead?
10 minutes. And I know you want to talk about
Wonderful.
health. Maybe there's some correlation there.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's your discipline is unmatched. Your drive is top tier. I mean, I can't say anything. There's so much good about you, and there's so much value in this podcast and this talk that you've provided. I would love to hear about how you take care of yourself in this process, and what your typical routine is, and what are non-negotiables when it comes to taking care of your own body in order to do this and everything that you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, health has always been a very important part of my life. I wrestled in school, and um, you know, so I started off at a young age, doing things that where I was exercising and running and push-ups and all that stuff at 10 years old, in wrestling class. And then as I got into high school, started working out more and, weightlifting. You do go through seasons in life where it's more challenging, and that's where your discipline's going to be tested. To be honest, I've got kids, and when my kids were born, when they're young, they're still young, but especially those first couple years, you got newborns. It's really difficult when your business is grinding. You have little kids and all this stuff, and I wasn't perfect. I'll be the first to admit that my schedule was not optimal, but I've I didn't let that be the case forever. I recognized it. I said, "Hey, I'm messing up. I need to get myself back on track," and I did. I didn't let myself go for 2 decades. But at the same time, I never went crazy. Right? I always paid attention to my diet and my eating. Sometimes have been better than others in life, and that's fine. But for me, physical health is like your body. To me, your body, it's holistic. Your physical health, your mental health, your spiritual health, your emotional health are all interconnected. And you can't just think you're gonna do well in business and you have all these finances. Like, that's not going to make you physically healthy. And health is wealth. If you don't have your health, you have nothing. And unfortunately, too many entrepreneurs focus so much, and they get so ingrained in their business that they forget about everything else that's happening. I always look at it like a table with four legs. It could have whatever legs, but one leg is your physical, one leg is your spiritual, one leg is your financial, one leg is your emotional. What's going to happen if you chop out a leg? It's probably going to lean. What if you chop out two legs? That thing's going to be falling over just with two legs. And so you need to maintain all of those. And I've noticed, at least, health, physical health, it affects the mental health. Like, if I have a hard week, right, but I go to the gym every morning, you ask my routine. I wake up, I drop my kids off at school, I go to the gym, and I work, and work until 6 o'clock, give or take. And sometimes I catch up on emails or whatever. I don't have such a rigid schedule where I'm off at 6. I'll never look at my computer, but I'm also not a workaholic. I do think I have a good balance, but over the recent couple of years, I used again I mentioned I used to be too rigid. I used to call it this work-life balance. I thought I had to get off at a certain time, and I couldn't think about work after that in order to have true balance. But I've gotten away from that, and now I think work-life harmony, work-life integration is a much better way of phrasing that. But again, I'm not a workaholic, but I'll get the work done whenever it needs to get done. If I got to work until 2 a.m. to catch up one day, I'm going to do that. But there may be another day that I get off early, and so I just kind of listen to the rhythm of my body and my mind and what I'm trying to accomplish, but not to be mistaken, right? Too much. Some people listen to that too much and they're like, oh, I just want to get Starbucks all day. No, I'm not saying that, but there is a balance, and you do need to listen to your body. And if you need you need to take a break and re-energize yourself, and take off one day, right, to re-energize yourself and clear your mind. That's okay, but that shouldn't be happening once a week. So there's a balance in that. But for me, going to the gym, like this physical health, I get energized. I get, I accomplish this personal goal. I feel good mentally and physically. And I'm also such a big believer that as an entrepreneur, people, your customers, your business partners, your clients, they feed on your energy. And if you're lazy and you don't have energy because you're physically not active and your blood is like molasses going through your veins, how are you going to convey to a customer that when you're tired and you're reclined halfway in your chair, how are you going to get them excited to want to buy your product and your services? So your physical health gives you this energy, and that you need energy to thrive in business. And I believe for me that's been a core thing. Is I talk to people, and I've gotten positive feedback where they say, hey, you're motivating or you're energetic. And if you want to be a good salesperson, you want to motivate others. You want to just create positive energy in the environment. Like, you need to be physically healthy and energetic yourself in order to be able to do that. So I think physical health, mental, emotional, spiritual, it's all connected. But I've always been a big advocate of exercise and physical health.
I love that. I think that's so great. And it circles back to the whole part of, if you take care of yourself, you'll be able to take care of others, right? And you really have to be a little selfish at this point or in these times, no matter where you are along the journey, to go ahead and accept that if you are not at your best, you can't be your best for the others. You won't be able, there will be limits of what you'll be able to tolerate throughout the day. There will be roadblocks, your sleep will be affected, your emotional health will be affected, and all of that will circle back, and it will be transparent in your business. It will be, because you'll reach a
Yep.
point where you'll break. You'll break. And I love that you've been able to, for someone who's been doing this for, like you said, 15 years, 16 years now, 17 years strong, you've taken your health very seriously along the entirety of the way, and it's proven to and shown in you how it's helped not only manifest but to create the life that you are now enjoying, of having this harmony, or harmonious balance between life and work altogether. You're a father, you're a family man, you're a business owner, you're a leader, you are a boss to many, and it shows. And I'm sure for a much longer time you'll be able to sustain this type of level, if not even grow and achieve and pursue even bigger goals than what you have now. So, true testament to you, what you've done, and what you continue to do, Craig. It's
Yeah.
it was an honor to have you here.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Hopefully it was valuable. I can, go into much greater detail on every one of those topics and many more. um, but those have been things that work for me personally. I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect. If you're striving for perfection, that's not reality. Yeah. But you do need to be disciplined. You need to be consistent. Be accountable to yourself. And when you make a mistake, when you mess up, just own it. Just admit it, and figure out how you can get better. Because if you just become 1% better every single day, that's progress, and you're going to continue to achieve great things over time.
Hey, Jordan, I think that, I'm not sure how consistent our listener base is, but, the podcast we've done so far, this fits in perfectly, because we talk about, Craig, we talk about mental, physical, we talk about posture, sitting. health and what diet. So, a lot of it is mental strategies, mental health really for startups. I deal with a lot of startups because I run a pitch event, because I'm getting involved in another startup space. So I like everything you said. And, there are people listening. My kids are in the background and listening. My wife is listening. Really appreciate everything you said, Craig. Just let you know, my wife's in a business that's probably it's growing 10% month over month and has over 50 employees. And she's not healthy today. She's getting over a cold, but she's working. She wasn't supposed to be working today. So I understand exactly everything you said.
Awesome.
Craig, if someone wants to reach out to you, if someone wants to see what you've done, or even as possibly, or just any type of insight, how do they get a hold of you? Where do they go to learn more about you and what you do?
I do a good job of being stealth, but you can go to craigsturgill.com. I have a business page on there. You talk about being disciplined and consistent. I posted a little bit early on, but I haven't regularly contributed to the website over the recent years. But it's actually been something I've been thinking about over the last, year or two of, giving back some of these lessons, posting it on my website. I'm on Instagram, but I don't, go on there a whole lot. But I do have a LinkedIn, and I've got craigsturgill.com. There's a contact form if somebody wanted to reach out, or just see some of the content that I've got on there, which I do plan on posting more articles and learning lessons that some of the things I've shared today on this call that may be able to give value to other people, other entrepreneurs, etc.
I think that this has been so valuable for anybody that decides to listen to this. I don't think that they could have asked for anything more, honestly. So as a testament to you and respectful for you and your time, I think we're going to cut it off short. I hope everyone had enjoyed listening to this, and I hope to see you next time.
Thanks so much, guys.